Bienvenidos a Soy Violento, Soy Macabro Podcast. Yo soy Ali.
Y yo soy Dee.
Y hoy Dee nos contará de un caso que sucedió en Atlanta, Georgia.
Spending a night with friends should be a safe and enjoyable experience. But for 16-year-old Susana Morales, it turned into a nightmare. While only minutes away from home, she vanished without a trace, leaving her family in a state of fear and anguish. The uncertainty of what happened to Susana or where she might be is a torment that haunts her family daily. This is a tragic case of Susana Morales.
Advertencia: la información de este caso puede ser desencadenante para algunos. Tenga en cuenta que algunos de estos casos pueden involucrar menores de edad, abuso, violación o violencia. Escuchen con precaución.
Warning: the information on this case can be triggering to some. Please be advised that some of these cases may involve children, abuse, rape, and violence. Listen with caution.
Me duele en mi corazón no saber dónde tú estás, hija, por favor. No sé, mami, si tú no quieres regresar, pero déjame saber, hija. Pero yo sé que tú no estás por tu voluntad, yo lo sé, mami.
Should have not knowing where she is, not knowing anything, you know? Like, all I ask sometimes is just, I just want to know where she's at so I can get her. So we know that she's not out there because she wants to be. She will never do that. I mean, it's been over a month. It would have been like, so she would have contacted like her boyfriend, my mom, me, or at least.
Después de que no me contestaba, yo pensé que algo le había sucedido porque ella siempre, aunque ella su teléfono está apagado, me llamaba del teléfono de su familia.
¿Y cuántas veces, solo se me puede dar un estimado, cuántas veces salió usted a buscar a mi hija?
Todos los días, todas las noches, durante 7 meses. Yo no quería eso. Yo no quería esa noticia. Yo la sé, la esperaba. La sigo esperando.
I'm still waiting for her.
Susana Morales was born on June 24th, 2006, in Atlanta, Georgia. She was a young girl who was also like the baby of the house. So she was the youngest of 3 girls. And her family was very like close-knit. So they were always together. They were always, hanging out together. They would go to the movies together. They were very close. And whatever one did, the other one would know about. Like if she was going to go to a friend's house, she would text like her sisters and be like, oh, I'm going here. Or she'll text her mom like, oh, I'm going to be here. She was very responsible when it came to her whereabouts and who she was with. Even if, she was going to stay away for long periods of time, she always was always in contact with either her family or her friends. Her family and friends describe her as a very kind and loving and very, very talented young girl. She was also described as being very funny and bubbly and sarcastic, and that she was very passionate with whatever she put her mind to. She adored music. She taught herself how to play the piano, the guitar, and eventually the ukulele. She was also a very amazing singer. There's clips on the internet that you can find with Susana actually playing the ukulele or playing the guitar, and she's singing. And her voice is just so spectacular. It's like very beautiful and very soft. So she was very talented. At the time of her disappearance, she was a freshman in high school. And during the time that she was off of school, she would help her mom in order to raise some money for her to spend. Both her mother and her siblings recall her as being a very responsible teenager. She was always, taking care of herself, very studious. She was just an overall great kid. So the fact that this happened to her just, hit them very hard, because her mom kind of describes it in a way that, she taught her daughter to do everything that was right. And in order to, be in the loop with her and just overall take care of her the way that she, I guess, quote unquote, was expected of her to do.
And that's a hard part, right? It's parents.
Yeah.
They do best that they can. They raise their kids right and don't talk to strangers. Y cuídate.
Yeah.
Llámanos, mándanos mensajes, hacen todo lo que tienen que hacer en...
Y todavía puede pasar algo
así,
tan horrible. So overall, you know, her mom and her sister just describe her as just being an overall great daughter. And just by listening to her family, just by listening to her family or friends describe her, it just feels like you know her and you just want to be around her because of how she carried herself and how she portrayed herself. So overall, she was just an amazing kid. On the morning of July 26, 2022, it was a typical summer day in the Morales home. Susana actually accompanied her mother to her job in order to help her and get some money for her to, you know, have money to spend since school was starting in the fall. So she wanted to raise enough money to buy her supplies. At around 4 p.m., they all got home and they freshened up and had dinner. And around 6 p.m., Susana actually told her mom if she can go visit her friend Rose. Now, Rose lived approximately 10 minutes away from Susana's home, and it was just basically in her backyard. But the apartment complex, the way that it like looked, you had to go all the way around in order to enter the other like perimeter of where the apartments were at. So there wasn't like a cross area where it was like an easier access to go through. So the way that she had to walk, it was like a 10-minute walk around the other apartment complex in order to get to her to Rose's home. So her mom was like, yeah, you know, go ahead, just text me when you get there. Once she arrived, she texted her mom, you know, I already got here, and they proceeded to stay at Rose's home. At around 9:40 p.m., she had texted her mother back saying, I'm going to be on my way home. And everything was good, you know, responsible. She was doing what she was told. But shortly after, her mom started worrying when she didn't notice that her daughter didn't come home within the 10, 15, latest 20 minutes to get home. And around 10, she was like, okay, something's wrong. Officially, it's been around 30 minutes. She should have been home. Let me call Rose and see if she's at her house. So she calls Rose, and Rose picks up the phone, and she's like, oh, yeah, she just left. She should be home in a little bit. So again, Maria, you know, waits up for her daughter and, you know, just waits to see if she hears anything from her. During this time, she keeps calling her, doesn't hear anything from her. In the meantime, Rose calls her friends, the girls that they were hanging out with that night, and starts asking around, like, you know, where's Rose? I mean, where's Susana? Like, you know, her mom's calling her, you know, I told her that she just left my house, and like, in order for her to get some time to get home, so she wasn't, you know, she wouldn't get in trouble, which is something that typically, you know, teenagers do. Be like, okay, you know, I'm covering up for you, but you better get home because, you know, I don't want you to get in trouble. So that was, you know, the protocol that they had. According to everybody, Susana wasn't at anybody else's house. The last friend that, you know, she walked with said that, you know, around like 9:55 was the last time that she saw her, because it was during the time where they had to split ways in order for her friend to go to her home and then Susana to go to her house. Around that time is the last time anybody sees Susana. And it just drove everybody in a panic. According to her friends, they found they all had their locations. So the whole group had like an app called I think it's the 360 or 365 app or something like Life app. I have to recall it and insert it in the description, but that app is used for friends to, you know where you're at, the location of where your whereabouts at, or where was the last time you used your phone. And according to that app, she was last seen with her phone like pinged at 10:06, and it was basically a few minutes away from her house, like probably like 2 or 3 minutes away from her house. So she was really close to her house. And her friend had called Rose and said, you know, It said that she last opened her phone at 10:06 at this location. And around 10:26, she was actually pinged in a different location on the opposite side of where she was headed. So instead of being closer to her house, she was approximately like 15-20 minutes away from her home, so in the opposite direction. Everybody found that weird because, it's not where she was meant to be going. So
Y no es
at that moment,
comportamiento de ella tampoco.
yeah. So during this time, they only talked about it within her friend group. They just were like more worried to,
Trying to
get
figure it out, yeah.
Susana home in order to get to, in order for her not to get in trouble.
Right.
So they all kind of suspected, well, maybe, she got on a car and like she got in an accident or something. Let's go to the last pin location and try to see if she's there. So Rose asked her sister and her sister's boyfriend to take her to the location that her phone was last pinged. So they go to the location, they get there, and there's no trace of Susana anywhere. According to court documents, Rose says that they spent almost 20 minutes looking around that area to see if they would find Susana or anything regarding to Susana. But once again, they didn't see anything, so they returned home. Once they returned back to the home, they waited to hear anything from Susana, Susana's mom, or like Susana texting anybody in the group. They kept checking the app to see if they would find Susana. But after a while, they ended up falling asleep. And they woke up the next morning to talking to her sister Jasmine and being told that she never got home. From that morning, there's no trace of Susana. The next day, on July 27th at 9 a.m., Susana's family actually goes to the Gwinnett County Police Department to report Susana missing. However, like we've seen before with many of these missing persons reports, a lot of these officers require families or friends to report a missing person within the 48-hour period. But so far, they only had a few hours from, not finding Susana.
Right.
Yeah. So the police told them, come back within the next 48 hours. Like, that's the protocol we can.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's like, we cannot do anything. You have to come back in 48 hours. According to court documents, Susana's family claims that the Gwinnett County Police Department did not take Susana's disappearance seriously because they believed that she was a runaway. And according to further documents, the police department, always assumes that most of these teenagers are running away from, their family, that they had an argument and they ran away. But one of the things that bothers me the most with this case is that the family was very adamant about Susana not being that type of teenager, that she was very responsible. She was always, communicative and always talking to her family, and at least one of the people that she is closest to will always know where she is. Even if she ran away, she would have told somebody that she was running away. But the police didn't take it into consideration. They basically blew it off and said, come back in 48 hours. That's when Susana's family and friends took matters into their own hands. When they left the Gwinnett Police Department, they decided to create flyers and start posting them all around the city. So they began to post flyers in, around the town, in different apartment complex, started knocking on businesses' doors, asking if they could leave the flyers there, passing it out in the community, sharing it on social media, asking the different media outlets to help them, spread the word about Susana. But at last, one of the businesses that was near her trail that she was supposed to take to go home allowed them to see their surveillance footage to see if they found any sort of, information on Susana.
Or anything, yeah.
So from the moment that business was actually a couple of minutes away from her house, which was also one of the last pings on her phone that showed her location. And it just shows Susana just walking normally across the surveillance camera. And that was the last piece of footage that was seen of Susana. There is no evidence of her being pulled into a car or being, kidnapped, or her running off with somebody, or her going the opposite way. She was literally on the direction to her house. The family ended up taking that surveillance video and taking it to the police and tried to push for them to, put a missing person, file the case of a missing person. But again, the police just kind of dismissed it and said this wasn't enough evidence. So again, the family continues to push and push and push. Eventually, Susana's case begins to build up momentum in TikTok. And that is also one of the first places that I ever actually saw something about this case. And it came across me back in 2022. And mind you, this was around the first time that we started the podcast. So I had just came across it, but never really looked further into it. But I do remember seeing her case over and over again, especially within the Latino community. And I guess one of the first media outlets that took control and took action over Susana's case and really pushed her, story out was Telemundo Atlanta. And they were the ones that, pushed her flyer out, asked, the community to support Susana's family and friends when it came to trying to pressure the Gwinnett Police Department to post about Susana as a missing person. They literally pushed this out to so many outlets and got it picked up to other local and national media outlets. And thanks to both social media and the media outlets, pushing Susana's case out, the Gwinnett Police Department took the case and they finally filed the missing persons report.
So después de las 48 horas, no, they still hadn't filed it?
Nope. You know how long it took them?
For 2 weeks?
No.
Longer?
The police report wasn't filed up until August 29th.
A whole month?
So almost a month. A little bit over a month to file the missing persons report.
Eso es algo que and we've heard all podcasts that we've listened to, todos decimos lo mismo. We don't understand why it takes the police department that long. I understand there's been cases where people file a report and the teenager had just gone to a boyfriend's house or girlfriend's house, they never were missing. Unfortunately, because of those scenarios, pagan personas que la verdad sí necesitan que las estén buscando.
And
it's frustrating. I cannot imagine lo que esta familia estuvo pasando por todo un mes.
Yeah. And the tragic part of it all is that not only it take them a whole month to post about the case or send any information regarding the case, but throughout the time of the disappearance, there was little to no push from the police department to find Susana. Susana's family solely was moving this whole investigation and the whole procedure to find Susana because the police wasn't doing much to help them in trying to find her. For 6 months, the Morales family lived in anguish as they searched for Susana. The days blurred together, filled with desperation and hope. However, it all ended abruptly in February of 2023. On February 6, 2023, Matthew Gilbert was off-roading in a ATV motorcycle when he came across skeletal remains along the Drowning Creek Road off of Highway 316. Sergeant Jennifer Richards of the Gwinnett Police Department told outlets in a conference that, quote, Susana's remains were actually quite far from her home and from the last place she was seen. Susana's remains were located roughly 20 miles from the street where she was last seen on surveillance footage. As the detectives looked through the crime scene, they came across an important piece into the case. On February 7th, which is literally the next day, detectives placed a grid search around the area where Susana's body was found, and they found a gun and a flashlight near her remains. So they weren't right next to it, but they were in that perimeter of the grid search. They took the gun and they traced the serial number of the gun, and detectives determined that the weapon was registered to a police officer by the name Miles Bryant, who was a police officer in Doraville Police Department, which is right next to Gwinnett County Police Department. So they were like near each other. This gave authorities the indication to look further into Miles Bryant's background. And approximately a week after finding the remains of Susana Morales, the Gwinnett County Police Chief, J.D. McClure, told the public in a televised conference that it is known that Susana had died. There is nothing that indicates that she was shot with the gun that they found within the perimeter of her body, but it is possible that she was raped during her death. During the conference, he spoke about finding Susana's remains and the weapon that was near her body, and how that weapon belonged to a police officer by the name of Miles Bryant. Within the conference, he told the public that the arrest was made and that he was charged with the death and kidnapping of Susana Morales, as well as falsely filing a police report when it came to the stolen handgun. He ended the conference by saying, quote, "This type of crime at the hands of a law enforcement officer evokes anger, even with the ranks of this agency. Police officers should always be the pillar of trust." Susana's family learned about Miles' arrest the same day they laid Susana's body to rest. Her sister told Atlanta News that she is relieved that Susana was getting the justice she deserves. Quote, "A really hard final goodbye, and just seeing her being buried is something that we didn't want. But we got good news today, so that gave us hope."
Honestly, just so surprised that he's an officer. I mean, we never expected that, and maybe that's why everything took so long for everything to find out, but we knew that eventually everything was going to come to light.
Your bond was denied by the judge that signed the warrant. Now, the reason given was that you are a danger to the community.
Miles Bryant is a 22-year-old man who was in the police field for roughly 2 years. And he also obtained military training before being a police officer. So as far as we know, that was the background that was found when it came to his career. According to records, he worked in the 4th County Police Department from March 2020 to May 2021. Then he found employment at the Doraville Police Department in September 2021 until the moment of his arrest. According to court testimony, he was also a security guard for the Sterling Glen apartment, which is the same exact complex where Susana was the night of her disappearance. These are the apartment complex that Susana was constantly visiting because her best friend lived there. And it was clear that even though they might have not known each other, he constantly saw Susana in the same complex.
He probably knew su rutina de ella.
Yeah. So according to further court testimony, Miles actually lived in that apartment complex. And based on where his front door was located, was a clear view to where Susana lived. So he can see from his apartment close proximity of where Susana actually lived. Remember how I told you that the apartments were like kind of like shaped in a U?
Yeah.
So from where he lived, he could see across to where she lived. So according to, speculation and theories, he knew about her and he would see her frequently, even though they probably have never spoken to each other, talked to each other, but they knew who each other were by, just face recognition or by name. But they didn't have any sort of friendship or relationship or anything.
She probably bumped into him cuando estaba entrando a la casa de su amiga, and that was it.
Exactly.
Pero él sabía más.
Yeah. Based on the timeline of the case, on July 27, 2022, Miles had reported his gun stolen, as well as his wallet and identification. He reported that someone had broken into his vehicle and stole the items from his passenger seat. So, remember how I said that Susana's family reported her missing the day after she went missing? That was the same day that Miles had reported his gun stolen. Exactly 1 hour after the family had gone to the Gwinnett Police Department to report her missing. So, he didn't even wait long enough to express that his gun was stolen.
As you were saying that, I'm like, as a police officer, I imagine, I'm like, what's the likelihood that they're gonna leave their gun and everything in the car, especially their gun? Especially them knowing que cualquier persona se puede meter a su carro. That's the thing that they protect the most.
Yeah, exactly. It's their weapon. Yeah. It's registered for them. Pretty sure that there's some sort of violation based on the weapon being not in close proximity to his whereabouts. So that in itself seems pretty odd.
Irresponsible.
But according to the police department, they just reported it stolen, then went off doing business as usual.
Yeah, porque no se esperan que uno de ellos haga algo así o haga cometa un crimen.
Exactly.
Especially because he worked in a different district. It wasn't where her family went to report it. It was a different one. No. Yeah. Okay.
It was a different county, but they were in close proximity. Right. So it's basically like an overlap of counties. So yeah.
Yeah.
And on June 12th, 2024, the trial proceeding for the death of Susana began. And the first people that took the stand was Susana's best friend and her boyfriend, who told the court all about the moments before Susana went missing. Susana's best friend, Esmeralda Castillo, also known as Rose, told the court that she knew something was wrong once she received a call from Susana's mother, asking if Susana was at her home. After telling her mother about, the whole, she's with me and she just left, she just felt like there was a very wrong gut feeling about what was going on. She goes on to tell the court about what happened that night and how Susana and her friends went out to look for her and tried to, find her, like where she was at, or try to look for her in her last locations. According to court testimony, on the flyer that they had made for Susana's disappearance, Rose actually placed her phone number within the contact information of the flyer in order for people to, leave evidence or ask for further information and just try to find Susana. Rose told the prosecutor that she received an anonymous call months after Susana's disappearance. And within that call, she said that somebody had asked her for updates on the case and what they knew about the missing teen. Other than that, they didn't leave any evidence, didn't say who they were, didn't explain anything, which made Rose feel a little bit, weird, because they're like, they didn't even ask about, how was the family or how can I help? They just wanted details on how much we knew about the case. The prosecutor went further and asked if she knew Miles or if her and Susana, ever interacted with Miles prior to Susana going missing. According to Rose, she had seen him at the apartments complex because he lived in the apartments. But they never had a friendship, they never had a relationship, they never talked to him further than a few words. She told prosecutors that they had an interaction with Miles once, where her and Susana were actually on their way to a gasoline station nearby to buy, junk food and stuff. And Miles actually offered them a ride to the gas station, but both Rose and Susana declined. And according to a quote from her from her testimony, she says, quote, "It wasn't odd for us to get asked if we needed a ride anywhere. We just laughed it off and we didn't talk about it after that." So, it's just typical teenage, oh yeah, this guy asked us for a ride, but we didn't accept it.
Yeah, no le dieron
just
malicia.
basically chit-chat. Yeah. During the trial, a vital part of the case also was brought up. Elijah Bates was one of Miles' high school classmates. On February 2023, right after the findings of Susana's body and the fact that Miles was the main perpetrator of Susana's murder, Elijah came forward and told the Gwinnett County Bureau Chief Matt Johnson that Miles was a childhood friend of hers and that they had recently reconnected in 2019. And after many years of not speaking, they started to, talk again. She said that Miles seemed to become obsessed with her, and he kept trying to find ways to try to get in contact with her and get into her apartment. She told officers that Miles had spent months repeatedly trying to break into her apartment.
Wow.
She told officers that she would get texts and calls from him telling her that he was in the neighborhood and if he could, pull up to the apartment. She firmly set her boundaries and told him, that he wasn't invited and he couldn't come to her apartment. But he was very persistent about going to her apartment. On October 2019, a neighbor shared a ring camera footage of Miles at Alicia's apartment door while he was being uninvited, so he wasn't supposed to be there. And then 2 more times in December of 2019 while she wasn't home during the time of Miles being in her apartment front door. In the December footage, Miles is shown covering his face and pulling on the door handle and knocking at Alicia's door. On March 19th, 2020, she reported Miles' actions to the police department and told them that he had kicked open her door of the apartment. Alicia told Fox 5 News that she believed Brian broke into her apartment one time while she was not home. She shared photos of the damaged front door, and she told Fox News that she decided to stop talking to Miles after seeing the broken door because she believed he was dangerous. Alicia said that she knew Miles was a police officer and that he has served in the military. She said that she was afraid for her life and told Channel 2 News that she, quote, bought cameras and got me a gun and made sure I kept it loaded. On December 11th, 2019, Alicia filed a police report with the Dorville Police Department and told the Gwinnett County Police about the suspicious activity. She told Channel 2 News, quote, when the officers asked me why he was trying to break into my apartment, I told him that I was scared and he was trying to rape me. However, after reaching out to both police departments, she was told that she had to report to a different department because they couldn't do anything about it since he was part of the police force within those departments. So they needed to work with a different county. She told Fox 5 News that Dorville Police Department claimed that they were doing administrating investigations and that they spoke to Miles and the behavior had stopped. Dorville Police Department also told Alicia that she needed to report any potential crime charges to the Gwinnett County Police Department. But once she reported the criminal charges, Gwinnett County Police Department did nothing, and nothing happened. Nothing happened until Susana's body was recovered. Another primary part of the trial was that detectives claimed that Miles made several Google searches, including, quote, how long does it take a body to decompose? And, quote, how are you ID'd by dental records? He also had multiple internet searches on the Susana Morales case. So if that doesn't make anything suspicious, I don't know what will. According to court documents, the location data showed that Miles' personal and work cell phone were last pinged near the site of Susana's where she was last seen, as well as in the woods where her body was located. Although many things were brought into light, the defense asked about Susana's suspicious history. According to Miles' lawyer, they talked about the suspension history that Susana had and the drug use that she did, as well as the media posting leads to her disappearance in order to prove Susana was a troubled teen. However, Lieutenant Biggers told court that those details were not relevant or contribute to Susana's disappearance. That even if she did that, even if she was suspended, even if she did do drugs, there's no reason for that to be the reason she went missing, and let alone to be murdered. During the closing statements, Miles' lawyer tried to argue that Susana's death might have been a possible overdose, due to the fact that the medical examiner never determined a cause of death because of the decomposition of the body. During their last statement with the judge, Susana's family took the stand to give their last impact statement regarding the tragic murder of Susana.
Jasmine Perez, Susana was my little sister. First of all, I just wanted to thank everybody for working on this case. All we ever wanted was justice for what happened to her. So I want to thank her for that. I mean, nothing will ever bring her back to this day. I still hope that I'll see her again. I just ask that he receives the maximum sentence because no family, no mother, no father, no one deserves to go through this. No one deserves to go through what he went through all these years. These 2 years, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to thank everybody. Thank you. The juror, the honor, everybody that worked in this case. I think you guys worked so hard to get justice for my sister. I just wanted to let you know what our family went through. Seeing my mom devastated every single day, not knowing what could happen to my sister was very, very disappointing, devastating. Seeing my mom not eat, not be able to sleep. Seeing my mom not wanting to cover herself, thinking that she could be somewhere lost, thinking the worst as the days pass. It's very, very hard not to think anything positive. As days, months, weeks pass, our minds were thinking the worst. Every single day, we had a different theory what could have happened to her. Maybe she got kidnapped. We didn't know anything. Every day was a new series in our mind, like a movie going through our heads. What was happening? What was she going through? Is she being held? Is she being forced to do something?
Primero que todo, quiero dar gracias al fiscal por ayudarlos. Hizo un buen trabajo. Gracias al jurado por tomarse el tiempo de estar aquí. A cada uno de los que han estado conmigo desde el primer día. Y a los medios también. Me han apoyado mucho. Ha sido muy difícil desde el primer día que mi hija desapareció. Ha sido un cambio en vuestra vida de toda mi familia porque principalmente yo pensando cada día, cada minuto, cada segundo de dónde está. Casi 7 meses buscándola, recibiendo llamadas, diciéndome que la tienen, recibiendo fotos, diciéndome que me la van a mandar en pedazos. Cada noche yo no puedo dormir sin pensar en ella. Pensando si está bien, si está la buena, si comió, si pasa frío. Pidiendo ayuda a todo mundo. Yo quería que me ayudaran a encontrarla porque era muy difícil. Yo solo, después de que la encontramos, le prometí que iba a tener justicia. Solo Dios pudo hacerlo para que la encontraran en ese estado y en ese lugar. Yo no puedo, es muy difícil. Solo quiero que se tenga la justicia que ella se merece, porque ella no merecía ser raptada, ni violada, ni matada. Yo no sé qué es lo que sufrió, yo solo sentí la aflicción de ella, el miedo de ella. Cada día yo lo siento cuando ella sucedió eso. Yo solo doy gracias a la juez y pido que se le dé todos los días que tenga de su vida de condena a la persona que le hizo eso a mi niña, porque era una niña alegre, buena, ya no le hacía daño a nadie. Yo sé que nada de esto me la va a regresar y no va a quitar el dolor que siento cada día. No hay una noche que no me acueste llorando por ella porque yo la extraño tanto.
On June 12, 2024, 23-year-old Miles Bryant was convicted of malice murder, felony murder, kidnapping, and misdemeanor of a false report of a crime on the July 2022 investigation. Gwinnett Police Department Superior Court Judge Tamala Atkins sentenced him to life in prison without the possibility of parole, plus an additional 12 months to his sentence. According to the Atlanta First News, Miles' lawyer told outlets that they are in motion to file a petition for a new trial. However, when the outlets asked Miles' lawyer why he apologized during his last statement in court, his lawyer said, quote, "Well, he was in the woods with the body. He knew where the body was and didn't tell anybody. But he maintains that he did not kill Susana Morales."
Wait, okay. So él está diciendo, Miles is saying that he bumped into the body?
Yeah,
and
so basically that
left it there.
Yeah, so basically that the lawyer is saying that he was located near the body in the woods.
Okay.
He knew where the body was, but didn't report it. That was the only thing that he did wrong. That he didn't do anything else wrong.
So
that
he just
did
bumped
not
into
kill
a body.
Susana.
What was he doing in the woods?
Exactly.
Oh my God.
I kid you not, when I heard that statement while I was doing when I was doing research for this case, I got so frustrated. So I'm like, okay, so his gun was right there. He was pinged to that location the night of her murder. He saw the body.
Right.
His Google research, his like search of the case. None of this.
The false report that his gun was stolen.
Yes.
So none of this counts.
All of this doesn't count.
He didn't do anything wrong. No.
Exactly. It's frustrating. So as of now, there's no new updates on the case, or if there's any, further details when it comes to any new trials that's going to happen to the case. But if it does, we will be sure to keep you guys updated when it comes to Susana's case. Maria told Telemundo News, quote, "Cada noche no puedo dormir sin pensar en ella. Sé que nada de esto la traerá de vuelta, ni que quitar el dolor. Todo lo que siempre quise fue justicia para lo que pasó. Quiero agradecer por eso. Susana was young, talented, and kind-hearted daughter who was just beginning to experience the best years of her life. She did not deserve to be murdered by a man who had taken oath to protect and serve his community. We will remember Susana as a vibrant young woman who was taken far too soon. This is a tragic case of Susana Morales.
So won't you send me your location? Let's focus on communicating, 'cause I just need the time and things to come through.
And this was the case for this week. Definitely a very heartbreaking case, yes. Especially after listening to the audio of Jasmine and Maria, and even the statements when it comes to the detectives on the case and everybody who was invested in this case. It's really heartbreaking. And I know that Susana would be so proud of how much time and effort and just so much love that was put into finding justice for her case. And I just have to say that Susana's family and friends and the detectives and the people that were involved in her case, and even the people that were part of this court case in order to put Miles in prison, it just shows how much they cared about her and having no set of remorse of what could have happened to Miles.
Making getting justice.
Yes, especially for a young girl who died for just trying to get back home. It's truly heartbreaking what happened to her, and my heart goes out to her family and her friends and anybody who has been affected by this case.
That could have been prevented, right? He could have been stopped.
Yeah.
Es lo que me enoja, que esta otra muchacha, la amiga, trató de hacer todo lo que estuvo en su poder to stop him. And para que no la escucharan. And that's that pisses us off. It's like, why, and I'm not here judging all police officers, all authorities, because there's a very high percentage who are out there doing the work, who have the commitment, the passion to help people. But then there's those that
are
te esperan hasta que algo pase.
Yeah. To me, it's like, you took this oath, you should take it as serious as anything. This could be your daughter, this could be your family, this could be your neighbor, this can be anybody. It doesn't have to be a stranger for you to not care. If this happened to you, to your family, to your daughter, to your sister, to anybody, you would want people to look for them regardless of who they are. And I know we've talked about, the fact that most of people of color are never looked or even acknowledged when it comes to being a missing person. And not a lot of effort is placed on them because of they are, the missing person. So a part of me is so heartbroken that people police officers don't take the consideration of just doing their job and just, provide that help to people that need it the most. So it's heartbreaking.
Si llegó tumbando la puerta. Para tumbar una puerta, that takes a lot of power, and he forced himself in para que le digan, oh, no puedes hacer el reporte aquí, tienes que ir a otro lado. Why couldn't they just pick up the phone, connected her, or driven her to, they could have done much more. Not just be like, no, sorry, it's not our district, so go somewhere else.
To me, it's also frustrating that they just kind of brush it off. And even in an interview that she did with one of these outlets, she even says, this could have easily been prevented. I did this because I was scared for my life. I was scared to, get harmed by Miles. And I tried to report him. I tried to get some sort of awareness, but the police didn't pay attention to me. Yet, a couple of months down the line, he does the same stalking behavior and murders a teenage girl and doesn't get reprimanded up until a year later. So it's like I tried, like she says, like, I tried to prevent this.
Yeah.
I tried to put it out there that he was, dangerous, and nobody listened. And even there's like, if people want to get really into this case, I suggest it. It has a lot of details that I probably skimmed through. And one of the details was also the fact that he had a lot of previous charges. And the police department didn't do their research when it came to hiring him based on the previous, accusations that he had. And I feel horrible that this type of case could have been prevented just if people did the proper background checks in order to understand that he was a dangerous person and he wasn't supposed to be out there with a badge and a gun and trying to portray himself as this hero to the community. Because it wasn't only that he was a police officer, he was also a security guard for this, complex. So he had authority in not only in the police department, but in the apartment complex that he lived in. So it's like,
dangerous man had so much authority.
Yeah.
Had a badge, had a gun.
Mm-hmm. And like I said, like if you guys want to check the body cam footage of him when he's being arrested, there's body cam footage of him, like where the other cops are talking to him, kind of befriending him in a way. You just see his demeanor and how cocky he is about being a cop, like trying to be like, oh yeah, like one of them. Like it's very disturbing because you know what he did and how not remorseful he is about his actions at all. So I recommend you guys check, if you guys have time, of course, to check, these court documents, court videos, like body cam footage. It's really intriguing to see his demeanor and how careless he is. And of course, we don't want to glorify this person. We don't want to put this out there, but it just shows how easily these type of evil people live in our society. And, sometimes we find them when it's a little bit too late. So, yeah. So that was the case for this week. Again, if you guys want to talk about this case, have any thoughts, opinions on it, we pass the, mic to you guys. Our comments, our DMs, and our messages are open. If you want to discuss this case, discuss it among, each other or with us, we are more than glad to talk about it. You can follow us on our social media platforms. You can look for us on Instagram, on TikTok, on Threads, and on Twitter, or X as it's known now, at SVSM_podcast, or on Facebook as Minutos podcast. You can look at the video portion of this video on our YouTube channel. Just type in Minutos podcast or SVSM podcast and we should pop up. It will all be linked in our description below as well, just in case you want an easier way to find our information. And if you want to listen to the rest of the 113.
Yes,
113 episodes, you can go to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, or wherever you stream podcasts, and just type in Minutos podcast. And our whole, I keep trying to say discography, it's not discography, our whole catalog should be up there. And yeah, am I missing anything?
Nope. You covered everything.
We're good. All right, we're good. So yeah, it's nice to be back, and I missed you guys. So thank you Thank you.
I missed us too.
I missed us. It's like, I missed us. And I told Ali, like, I could have recorded this a little bit sooner, but I was like, I need you to talk to me because it's not the same.
It's not the same. Like, cuando estás haciéndolo sola, you need the back and forth, or at least seeing someone in the camera, right?
Yeah. You're like, I didn't do this much research to talk to myself. But again, thank you so much for your time and for your patience. I know sometimes it's a little bit hard to take some time off, but it was definitely needed. I think that's it, right?
That's it.
Anything else?
Stay hydrated.
Yes, stay hydrated, stay cool, drink a lot of water.
Yeah.
And enjoy your summer, guys.
No saquen a sus perritos.
Oh my God, no. Take them out after sunset.
After 7.
Yeah.
Before 7 a.m. Like,
if you guys are willing to wake up at 5 or 6 in the morning, do that.
Please. Because it's hot.
But yeah, it's super hot outside. Also, if you guys want to buy little pup ice creams, they sell them at Target or at Walmart. Keep them doggies hydrated and cool this summer because it's really hot out there and they have fur. So remember, keep them cool. Yeah.
Si tú tienes calor,
ellos tienen más calor.
Exactly.
So please. And I think that's it, right?
You guys drink water.
Stay hydrated.
Drink coffee, iced coffee,
and
alcohol.
Yes. Drink a margarita by the pool.
Or 2.
Or 2. Please. Yeah. But we'll see you guys next week.
Yep. Adios. I was going to say bye. I'm like, wait, you're the one that says bye. I say adios.
Okay. 1, 2, 3.
Adios.
Bye. Stay spooky. I miss that the most.
Of course.
Bye.
Bye.